Tomahawk, the strategic card Zelensky desperately wants. Amid the thunder of artillery, the jagged lines of frontiers, and the constant calculus of risk, one question keeps returning to the world's strategic conversation. Why does President Volodymyr Zelensky covet the American Tomahawk cruise missile so fervently? The answer is not a single fact, but a compound. Tomahawk's technical capabilities, its capacity for deep strike warfare, and its status as a political instrument. Together, these qualities make it a weapon that can reshape how war is fought and how leaders negotiate. Tomahawk is not merely a projectile. It is a system engineered for precision, persistence, and surprise. In its commonly fielded variants, it is a subsonic cruise missile that weighs roughly 1.5 tons, carries a warhead in the several hundred kilogram class, and can travel well over 1,000 kilometers. Ranges frequently cited between roughly 1,250 and 2,500 kilometers, depending on the variant and mission profile. It can launch from multiple platforms, surface ships, submarines, and in certain configurations, land launchers. Its flight is guided by a suite of navigation technologies, inertial guidance overlaid with GPS, terrain contour matching sensors, and in some variants, imaging or scene matching technologies. The result is a weapon that can be pre-programmed to follow terrain, alter course mid-flight, and approach targets from unexpected vectors. But raw numbers do not tell the whole story. The combat profile of the Tomahawk, how it behaves in an operational environment, is what gives it strategic teeth. Tomahawk's hallmark is its low-altitude, terrain-hugging flight. By flying under radar coverage, weaving through valleys and along ground clutter, the missile minimizes detection time for enemy air defense networks. When detection does occur, it is frequently at a much shorter range and a much later time than with ballistic or high-altitude cruise threats. Coupled with modern guidance and terminal seekers, that makes the missile exceptionally difficult to defeat in practice, particularly when launched in coordinated salvos. In combat, several aspects of Tomahawk performance stand out. First, its accuracy. Modern Tomahawk variants can achieve meter-level circular error, probable CEP, under favorable conditions, meaning they can reliably strike hardened facilities, command nodes, runways, ammunition dumps, and bridgeheads with surgical effect. Second, its adaptability. Mission planners can program waypoints, hold patterns, and multiple approach corridors, enabling an attack to defeat predictable linear defenses. Third, its persistence and penetration. Warheads and fusing options are engineered to defeat fortified or buried targets, and with correct tactics, a relatively small number of missiles can create disproportionate operational effects by destroying critical nodes rather than large swathes of territory. Salvo tactics magnify these features. One Tomahawk by itself is dangerous. A dozen launched from different platforms across an operational theater can overwhelm a localized air defense bubble. Air defense systems typically need time to detect, assign, track, and engage multiple incoming weapons. When that queue fills, some missiles will penetrate. Moreover, Tomahawk missions can be integrated with electronic warfare packages. Jamming, spoofing, and decoys can be timed to open corridors for the missiles. In historic conflicts, Tomahawks have been used as first-wave munitions, clearing hardened airspace, severing command conduits, and creating windows of opportunity for follow-on strikes. Yet the Tomahawk is not invincible. It travels at subsonic speeds, so detection at sufficient range, combined with timely, layered air defense responses, can lead to interception. Its reliance on GPS and digital mapping makes it vulnerable to jamming, spoofing, or degraded geolocation environments. Though modern Tomahawk variants increasingly incorporate backup seekers and inertial systems to mitigate that risk. The missile's terminal seeker can be defeated if target signatures are masked or if decoys are effective. And finally, the logistics of an operational Tomahawk campaign are non-trivial. Launch platforms, mission planning, intelligence for precise targeting, and post-strike battle damage assessment all require trained personnel and secure communications. This combination of capability and limitation explains why Zelensky values Tomahawk so highly. Ukraine's current inventories and those supplied by partners' long-range artillery, ATACMS Storm Shadow, give Kyiv tactical reach measured in hundreds of kilometers. Those systems threaten front-line logistics and nearby staging areas. They seldom, however, put the deep rear of the Russian state major bases, strategic logistics hubs, or industrial nodes into direct danger. Tomahawk changes that geometry. With ranges stretching far beyond prior capabilities, Ukrainian-operated Tomahawks could put Moscow's approach corridors, major airfields, and critical repair depots within reach. For Zelensky, that possibility is a potential equalizer, a way to force Russia to disperse, to commit resources to homeland defense, to reduce the pressure on frontline Ukrainian forces, and to raise the political cost of continued offensive operations for Moscow. Psychology matters in war. The mere threat of Tomahawk strikes compels recalculation. A state that can no longer rely on rear area sanctuaries must either reconfigure its logistics, widely dispersing, safeguarding, and duplicating assets, or accept the risk of debilitating, targeted strikes. Dispersion dilutes combat power and increases the logistical footprint. It can slow offensive tempo. In that sense, a handful of Tomahawks can produce outsized strategic friction. They are as effective as a deterrent as they are as a munition. Yet the strategic impulse to possess Tomahawks collides with geopolitical realities. For Russia, Tomahawks crossing into its depth would be more than a tactical problem, they would be a political escalation. Moscow's response concept is built on the perception of existential risk to the state's vital infrastructure and command resilience. The Kremlin has warned that Western transfers of long-range, deep strike systems could be read as crossing a red line, and that escalatory counters could follow. The question of control, who selects targets, who authorizes strikes, is central. If strikes on Russian territory are perceived as being enabled, guided, or executed with Western operational involvement, Moscow may equate that to direct involvement by Western militaries with unpredictable diplomatic and strategic consequences. Operational constraints further complicate the picture. Ukraine would require compatible launch means or dependence on allied platforms, which brings legal and political complexity. Training crews, securing mission planning networks, and ensuring reliable target intelligence are non-trivial undertakings that demand time and secure infrastructure. The United States' own inventory of Tomahawks is finite. Large transfers would have a cost in naval and strategic readiness. For those reasons, even if Washington agreed rhetorically, the volume and nature of any transfer would likely be limited and tightly conditioned. Combat history offers instructive precedents. Tomahawks have a track record of effective use in layered campaigns, where their precision and surprise are multiplied by integration with ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, SAD, suppression of enemy air defenses, and electronic warfare. In such contexts, Tomahawks have reliably created tactical shock and deprived adversaries of hardened sanctuaries. But they are rarely decisive alone. Their strategic value is best realized when they are one component of synchronized campaigns that combine attrition, disruption, and political messaging. In short, Tomahawk's power lies in the intersection of technology, tactics, and political theater. For Zelensky, it is a lever, a way to try to level an asymmetrical field, create strategic dilemmas for Moscow, and press for negotiations from a stronger posture. For Washington, it is a calibrated instrument, a tool to project power and influence escalation dynamics without necessarily committing ground forces. For Moscow, it is a threat that cannot be ignored, one that forces hard choices about defense posture and strategic signaling. Ultimately, Tomahawk is emblematic of modern war's paradox. Weapons that are highly capable can simultaneously be subtle instruments of deterrence. A missile that can fly low and strike with surgical precision does not only destroy infrastructure, it rewires decision-making. The missile that may never be fired can still change the map of possibility. In that sense, Zelensky's hunger for Tomahawk says less about an appetite for escalation than about hunger for strategic agency, the ability to make his adversary pay a different price for continuing the war. The question that remains is not simply whether Tomahawks could be delivered or used effectively. It is whether the international system can absorb the political shock of their deployment without sliding into a broader and deadlier spiral. That tension between military utility and geopolitical restraint is the beating heart of the debate around Tomahawk and, by extension, the future trajectory of this conflict.